Good afternoon, everybody. Just going to wait for this to pop on here. And I think we're good to go. So this afternoon, we are checking out something that is not yet on Amazon, but this is going to be on Amazon at some point, I'm sure, in the future. And this is the OWC 3-port Thunderbolt dock. So it's 1 in, 3 out, essentially, or I guess you would say 1 in and out and 3 in and out. And what's neat about this thing is that we have not seen a multi-port Thunderbolt hub before. We've had daisy chaining, but it was always like a single port, where you get a dock with a bunch of stuff on it. But what's neat about this one, which is what we're going to play with in a few minutes, is that it is giving you 60 watts of PD, power delivery, and you get 3 distinct daisy chain outputs from it. Now you're sharing the bandwidth, so you've got 40 gigabits of total bandwidth that's shared. But we can do some neat stuff with this, and if you've got the MacBook, like I've got the M1 MacBook, which I will bring out here in a second, you only have 2 ports on this thing. So, and actually I think all the MacBooks currently that have the M1 just have 2 ports. So you immediately get more ports that you can use, and I've been using this now for the last week upstairs because it works as the power supply. And then I usually edit on 2 drives because I have footage coming out of my system on an exFAT disk, and I need to edit on the Mac using a Mac formatted drive. So I have a Mac formatted drive for the project files, and then the video files live on an exFAT drive. And so I always have to have 2 drives attached, and this has been working great out of 1 port. And because I'm usually using USB drives, I never have an issue running out of space, or running out of bandwidth here. So it's been full speed. And so I've had like 2 drives plugged into each of these, and they're USB drives too, because you can plug USB-C drives into this thing, or you can use the USB port in the front. And then I have my Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter over here because I have 10 gigabit Ethernet now in parts of the house. And because I have this super fast connection, I want to be able to make use of it, so I have a Thunderbolt thing running there. So that is what I've got. And we're going to get to a couple of fun little tests on it. I'm going to be shooting the review tomorrow, but I thought I would involve all of you in just my testing of it, because I wanted to hook up, what I wanted to do was hook up 3 drives and run them in like crazy, what they call scary RAID 0, where we're just going to use the aggregate speed of all 3 at the same time. So I thought that might be kind of fun to do. And before we do that, let me take a few questions here, or salutations. So Ed Chin is here. Hello, Mr. Chin. Good to see you. Romerica's here once again. Good to see you again, as always. You're always like one of the first people on here. And then we've got Agent 091. Weird timing. Wonder why this is Thunderbolt 3 instead of USB or Thunderbolt 4. Yeah, so here's the thing with this. This is the problem. We've covered this on the channel in the past. All right, so Thunderbolt 3 and 4 are very similar. And what's weird about this dock, and if we have time, we'll test the Windows computer out. It's on my list of things to check out. What they're saying on this dock is that it will work with Thunderbolt 3 on the Mac, but the Windows side needs to be Thunderbolt 4 to be compatible. So that's what they're requiring here. So this is, on the Windows side, Thunderbolt 4, but on the Mac, Thunderbolt 3. And I was curious about this, and OWC has some stuff on their website where they talk about the fact that on the Mac, because they implemented Thunderbolt fully in a way that apparently wasn't being done on the Windows hardware initially, this will work on the Mac with Thunderbolt 3, even though it only works on 4 on the Windows side. Very confusing. And then I had published something on my community tab about this, and people were like, oh, hook it up to your iPad. No, you can't hook it up. It's Thunderbolt only. So it's got to be Thunderbolt, and it will work again, Thunderbolt 3 on the Mac. So I've got essentially the first generation Thunderbolt 3 Mac here. This is my 15-inch MacBook Pro. And if we need to, we'll hook this up to see how it works, because I have a feeling that we're going to max out the bandwidth when we do this this 3-drive test. And just to show you what we're going to do here, I've got 3 Thunderbolt drives here. This is going to be like one of the key things that we're going to test out in the review. Now, granted, these are all different brands. So I have a Samsung drive here. This is my fastest drive. Isn't it nice? They had some guy from like Porsche or Ferrari design it, I think. Who designed it? But it's got like, you know, aluminum like automobile paint. Like, it feels really slick. So this one though throttles a lot. So you'll see it like go super fast and then it throttles down once it heats up. And then I've got the Sabrent Thunderbolt 3 Rocket, which I don't think they're selling anymore. I looked for it on Amazon, couldn't find anything. And then I've got this one, which is technically USB 4, but works over the Thunderbolt part of USB 4. So that is how that's working. So what I'm going to do here first is we're going to connect all 3 drives to the computer, and they're going to show up as 3 distinctly different drives. And it took me an hour to copy everything off of this thing, because I had like 75 gigs of a video that we shot for the local high school graduation that I didn't want to erase on that drive, because we're going to erase these things and run them as a single RAID unit. So we're going to plug all these things in. And feel free to ask questions as we go here. And what's cool again about the dock, and I'll zoom out my other camera here, is that it provides power. So when I'm upstairs in the kitchen, I don't need to have anything other than the dock plugged in to get power to the Mac here. So that's what's cool about it. So I'll turn the volume up so you'll hear it charge when I connect it. It only does 60 watts though, so if you've got a MacBook Pro, you know, you'll be able to get the full potential out of your Mac, but it may not charge the battery all the time. And wait for it, there we go, and it's connected. So the first thing I want to check out, let me tilt the camera up a little bit here. We're getting into winter now, so my socks are generating static electricity. Got to get my bracelet thing out again. So what we're going to do is we are going to have these 3 drives become one. And I'll show you how to do that on the Mac here in a second. All right, so the first thing I want to do though is I want to verify, and I have this this screen getting captured. So let me just pull up my Thunderbolt device tree here, because I want to verify that all 3 of these drives are showing up as Thunderbolt drives. So let's go into, and by the way, if you're watching on Amazon, leave a comment and we can help you. So here's what we got connected. So we have Thunderbolt bus 0. Now, one thing with the M1 Max is that these are 2-lane Thunderbolt connections. So I think we might get better performance out of the other Mac, which we'll test in a little bit. And we're not going to do a Linux test today. We're strictly going to try to get these drives joined together. But as you can see here, all 3 of these are showing up on the Thunderbolt bus. Even though this one says USB 4, it's using the Thunderbolt standard to connect. So it's technically Thunderbolt, even though it's not listed as Thunderbolt on its packaging and on its port. But here you go. You can see all 3 of these drives are connected as Thunderbolt. Perfect. Okay, so now, and oh yeah, so that's right. So Thunderbolt 3, here, I'll put this up. This just gets so, the consumers are just not winning here. Ali Jr. says, Thunderbolt 3 is Thunderbolt 4. Go find the interview that Gary explains does with the OWC CEO. Thunderbolt 4 just means that your PC, only your PC, not the Mac, is fully Thunderbolt compliant. So in other words, we had to create Thunderbolt 4 because Thunderbolt 3 was never fully spec'd out on the Windows side. You know, this is just the nature of the beast. So let me show you though. Let's do a quick speed test here. We'll pull up the Blackmagic speed test, and I'll just show you what each of these drives gets individually. So let me connect to here. We'll do that Samsung drive first, and let's start that up. And this one should do better. So that's why I think we might want to try the other Mac here after we get this set up. But you can see we're reading at about 20 gigabits per second here. That's the Samsung drive. So let's stop it here, and we'll connect the Sabrent drive up here. So let's try the Sabrent one, which is the Rocket. Open that up, and we'll run the test again. That one does, they each do about a gigabyte or so per second writing, which is about 20 gigabits, and they're reading much faster. So there's that one. And then we'll try the other one here, which is the one that we reviewed the other day. So this one is the USB 4 drive. And this was the one, this is this one. This is the one where you got to bring your own SSD. So we put in a Samsung 970 EVO in there. And we can run the test on that one. So just make note of this, that we're writing at about a gigabyte per second per drive, right? And then we're reading like, 2 point something, okay? So what I want to do now is set up a little scary RAID array where we're going to take all 3 of these drives and mount them as a single unit. So let's see what happens here. All right, so we got that going. So now what we are going to do, and by the way, Thunderbolt 4 doesn't necessarily equal USB 4 completely because there's things that Thunderbolt 4 requires that USB 4 does not, even though they support all the same things. So we'll see what goes on there. Johnny wants to know, what's the point of doing the software RAID? Well, what I want to do is I want to see how much bandwidth we can push through this, because the max that these SSDs typically can deliver is about half of the 40 gigabits that we get out of Thunderbolt. So I want to see if we can get, like the full 40 or close to it. So that's why I want to set these up as a little RAID here and see what happens. All right, so I have to remember how to do this. So we're going to, I think we got to format these things. Let me go make a new, I can make a new volume here, right? We got to do new image, not new image, new RAID assistant, that's right, okay. So, and you all can help me with this as we're working our way through this thing here. So we're going to go to RAID Assistant, and we're going to do a RAID striped, a RAID 0. And that will give us the max performance. It's going to write across all 3 at the same time. And we're going to select each of these. And it's going to erase everything on there. Now what will happen here is you can see we've got 2 1 terabyte drives and then 1 500 gigabyte drive. So what will happen here after we create this is that we're going to have a single 500, it'll be 1.5 terabytes, I think, because it can't be larger, like it's got to be 3 of the smallest drive, in other words. So it'll be 1.5, I think, when we're done. And we're going to get a warning here. So we'll do the Mac OS format here. Yep, so it's 1.5 terabytes. I'll call this RAID test. And we're going to erase all 3 drives. Hopefully I don't have anything important on these things. I checked. I copied stuff off. I think we're good, because this is permanent. And now it's going to make our single drive out of 3. All right, done. So now, as you can see here, we've got a RAID array set up here, 1.5 terabytes, and it shows us which drives make up that RAID array. So let's see what happens now when we do this test on all 3. Ready? What do you think is going to happen? I don't know. What I want to see is like 2 or 3 gigabytes per second on both read and write. Look at that. Boom. So we're getting about 20 gigabits per second on writes. You know what's funny is it's not going much faster than it did before. So what I want to do now is bring out the other Mac and see if the 4-lane versus 2-lane here makes a difference. So I do think the Thunderbolt is not as robust on the M1 as it is on the Intel ones. All right, so let's stop that. Yeah, and by the way, I've got Thunderbolt, all these are Thunderbolt 3 cables. So, and this one's Thunderbolt 4 going to the computer, because that's what it came with. All right, so now let's eject this sucker, and we're going to swap out the Macs here. So we're good on that. And let's pop this out, and we'll pop the video out here for a second. let's bring in the other Mac. And I'm just going to get the Mac here set up. I'm not sure what I had on the screen last. By the way, it's crazy. Now this one is the 2016 version, so this is the original, like I said, not the original MacBook Pro, but this is the original with the first one that had the Thunderbolt 3 on board. And give me 1 second, I just got to clean some stuff off the desktop here. And let's close that. I'm just going to eject a couple of disk images that were on here. All right. So now, what we'll do, I'm just going to plug this into the other side here, get the video mirrored. So we'll start with that. All right. Now you saw that before. We were getting about 2.5 gigabytes per second out of those drives. It was throttling a bit because that Samsung drive just slows right down. It's really finicky like that. All right. And I think we are mirroring. Let's take a look here. Yep, we're mirroring. Okay, perfect. So now we are going to plug in to the side here. And my battery is pretty charged on this too, so we're not going to be drawing too much power. Now, typically the MacBook Pro requires 100 or 86 watts or whatever. So this thing only delivers 60. But I have found in my testing that you don't lose any performance with less power. It's just that you might see the battery drain a little bit if you put it under heavy load, or it doesn't charge the battery to support the CPU and GPU. All right, so let me load up the speed test here. Now you'll note that even though we have the software RAID configured on the other Mac, it shows up right here. So we still have all of that. Let me just get my backdrop up here, so I'm not sure what's on the desktop. Okay, so now we are going to just select that target drive. And let's go to RAID test. And let's start her up. Ready? Let's see how it does. Yeah, it does about the same. So I wonder if we use 2 drives instead of 3, what happens? Because I'm just curious, because like we're not getting much faster than the 20 gigabits out of one. And I'm pretty sure it's symmetrical 40 gigabits. It's 40 gigs in both directions, if I'm not mistaken. So we're maxing out like half the capacity, but not all of it, right? Because you should be getting closer to 5 if you were getting close to 40. So there you go. Okay, so let's kill that RAID. Let's reconfigure it. And what I'm going to do here is pop out, let's see here, let's go to the RAID assistant again. And I think I have to just break the RAID. Let me go back and see how we do that. I can unmount it, let's see. Delete RAID, here we go. Yep, so we're going to delete the RAID. And I'm just going to try it with 2 drives and see what that does, because I'm curious. So we're going to delete that. And just destroying the RAID. It's such a terrible word to use. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Samsung one out of the mix here. And we're just going to run with the other 2. And let's see if that makes any difference here. So we'll put that aside for now. This Samsung drive totally throttles itself. Okay, so now got those 2 connected, and let's go back to the RAID assistant, and we're going to build a new one. So we'll go next, and we'll just connect the Sabrent and the. All right, this one says Samsung, but it's actually in the enclosure here. So 2 Samsung and the Sabrent. Okay. And we'll click next. All right, we're going to call it. Now you see, now it's got 2 terabytes because we have 2 1 terabyte drives. And we'll call this RAID test 2, and we'll create it. And we'll see what we get there. All right, so it has been created successfully. We'll click Done. And what we'll do here is select that RAID here as our target drive. So let's select that. And remember before we were getting about 2.5 gigabytes per second, which is about 20 gigabits. And let's see how it does. Yeah, about the same as we were getting before. So the good news is it is at least, it's speeding things up slightly. But like I said, each of these drives individually, actually, if anything, the drives were reading a little faster before. So we're not getting much benefit by creating a RAID here, which is what I was hoping you would see. So that's interesting. We have to reach out to them. Yeah, Johnny, it did read faster before. Yeah, I think it could be that one of the two drives read faster, so it's likely going to go to the speed of the slowest one in the sense that I think it has to read kind of symmetrically. So if one is running slower than the other, you're kind of right. But yeah, we're not seeing much of a performance difference here versus just having it directly connected. So there you go. That was one of the key things I wanted to test with this. And it doesn't mean we're not getting what it's supposed to do. It could just be what it is. Drury wants to know how would the hub work in Windows? So what they're saying is that the hub, and we'll test it with Windows now. The hub will work on Windows provided it is a Thunderbolt 4 PC. And it just so happens that all the Thunderbolt 4 PCs I had in for review have gone back to their manufacturers. So I have a Thunderbolt 3 Lenovo over there, which we'll try real quick and see what that does. So let's pop these out. I'm going to kill the RAID first because I want to have these show up as individual drives again. So that was kind of disappointing though. We didn't get more, but I think it's just the nature of the beast, right? But yeah, we were only getting about 20 gigabits. And I was hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping to see like 3 to 4 gigabytes per second, which I think would be within the scope. And I don't know enough about software RAID to say whether or not that was supposed to happen. Oh, wait a second here. So okay, so check it out. Something is missing from our array here. Something got disconnected. So let's try and figure out what happened. So the Sabrent was plugged in, but the other one here, so this one kind of fell off the RAID, which might be why it slowed down. Let's plug that back in and see if we can get that working again. Well, that explains it. Okay, so now it says it's online. All right, let's try that again. What I'm going to do, though, real quick, is just check the Thunderbolt info. Just to make sure that we've got both drives here connected. Okay, so the Rocket's connected. All right, we got both on there. Okay. So the Rocket's here, and that other one is there. Okay. Both on the Thunderbolt bus. So let's try this again. Yeah, not getting much more there. And they're both online here. All right. Okay, so let's try it out in Windows now and see. I don't think this is going to work with my Windows machine because, again, I only have the, oops, I forgot to delete those drives, but I could probably kill the RAID here. Okay, so let's try it on the Windows side. Like I said, I don't think it's going to work on that Windows PC, but we'll try it, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so that was a fun experiment. And we'll figure it out. I got some other questions here. Agent 091 Here's a good question because I don't know of any USB-C only docks. I think, do I have one somewhere? I mean, I have, so wait, let me back up here. If we're talking about hubs, I don't know of like a multi-port USB-C hub. At least I haven't tested any or looked for one. But there are docks that work with both, namely, and I have two of them here, and we reviewed this one recently. This one from Pluggable. There's another one from Kensington that's very similar. This will work with USB-C and Thunderbolt because it detects both of those. But I don't know of like a 7-port USB-C hub or anything, and I would love something like that. All right, let's try to plug this thing in and see what we get. So, you know what we should try first before we do this? I want to see, why don't we plug in those Thunderbolt drives to the Mac into each port individually and just see if that makes any difference. Let me get that Mac back on the desk here real quick. That was the one thing I didn't try. So let's try that real quick because I'm just curious how that might play out. So let me grab my power cord here. That's the wrong one. I got too many power cords around here. So let's pop this in here. And then we're going to plug in. So we're not going to use the hub now. We're going to plug these drives in directly. I just want to see if we can push more bandwidth out of them. Because it could be the software just doesn't cooperate either, right? So there's that. So we're going to have to rebuild that RAID array real quick. So let's plug these in. And I read somewhere that depending which port you plug into, there's different things hanging off of them. So we'll see if we get any more speed out of this. All right. So let's go back to, and I'm going to have to shoot the screen here because I am not running, I can run video here. Put the video into this one here. All right, so now we're not using the hub at all. And let's see what we get. Bear with me, folks. We've got to wait for the video to spool up. Okay, so we're going to create the RAID again, and then we'll kill it again. But why not? Okay, so RAID 0 striped. We do the Sabrent, and we're going to do the Samsung SSD inside of the case. And we'll create this. All right, so now we've got another little software RAID. And it could just be a limitation of the software RAID too. I mean, there's a lot of different factors that could be slowing this thing down. What I would love to see if there was a way to measure the Thunderbolt bandwidth in real time. Wouldn't that be cool? Because then we would really know for sure exactly what was getting pushed out on this thing. All right, so I'm just going to select target drive again. And so now we're not using the dock at all. And we're just using two, oh wow, okay, so yeah, look at this. That's what I was expecting. See that? And that's closer, you know, that's not quite 40 gigabits per second, but that's closer, right? So if we're looking at 4 gigabytes in gigabits, we're getting 32. So this is what I was expecting we would get. This is like 32 gigabits. So we're definitely getting more than 20 off the two drives. And I was expecting that. But again, we've got two distinct connections here, so maybe that's why. So I'll bring it up, because some people might buy this. Look, I am not negative on this little dock at all, because I have gotten a lot of use out of it. It's solved some problems for me. And I'm not using, I'm using high-speed devices, but often not simultaneously. So I am pretty happy with that. Jessica Long has a question. So what's the difference between Thunderbolt and USB-C? And that is a good question. I actually have a video that you can find on my YouTube channel that explains the whole thing. But in a nutshell, Thunderbolt is faster. So USB-C, now this is the problem, is that USB gets really complicated here. She's asking this on the Amazon Live thing. So USB-C, depending on which version of it you have, can max out at usually around 10 gigabits per second. There is a version of USB-C that goes to 20 gigabits per second, but for the most part, it's 10. Thunderbolt goes to 40 gigabits per second per port. And that obviously is a lot more bandwidth. And it's also, I think Thunderbolt's interface is more efficient because it's closer to the processor. I think it's right on the bus. So you just get better performance out of Thunderbolt devices, but they cost a lot more. So that's the difference there. Mark Smith wants to know what version of RAID increases speed. So RAID 0 will always give you the best speed, because what you're doing is you're striping. So what's happening here is when we're writing to the drive, we're writing to this one and then writing to that one. So as you're laying out your data, and this test we just ran is a sequential read and write test. So as data is getting written sequentially, it writes to the first drive, it writes to the second drive, and then it flips around. So you're getting essentially the aggregate performance of both drives, or close to it. There's some overhead, obviously. And you're also getting the aggregate amount of storage. The problem, though, when you're in RAID 0 is that you have a significant risk of data loss, because if you're writing to the drives and then you yank the cable out, you're done. You're totally done. So there's no redundancy. So RAID 1 would be something where you could mirror one drive to the other so you have redundancy, but you no longer get the speed advantage or the storage advantage. So you'd have 2 terabytes of storage connected in RAID 1, but you're only accessing 1 terabyte because everything you write to the drive gets mirrored to the other one. So there you go. Yeah, Greg M has a great comment here about standards. If you don't like one, there's always a new one coming out. And I think what's been a big problem for consumers is that the Thunderbolt versus USB-C thing has been extremely confusing. On the Mac, it made sense because, at least with this Mac, because the Thunderbolt port reads USB-C just fine. But for consumers, they see these super fast Thunderbolt devices and they look at the port like, oh, I got one of those ports. They buy the drive, they plug it in, it fits, but nothing happens because it doesn't support both. It's only now, in 2020, after 5 years of this, that we are getting devices that auto-detect. So for example, that dock I showed you a minute ago, that one will detect what it's plugged into. So if you plug that dock over there, the pluggable dock, if you plug it into USB-C, it operates as a USB-C hub at slower speeds. You plug it into Thunderbolt, same drive, same dock, same cable, everything works. But up until now, it didn't work at all. Now this one, you plug it into USB-C, nothing will happen. It won't break anything, just nothing's going to work. So that's how that goes. And Agent Zero, yeah, wait for USB 4.1 2x2. And the other problem that you run into with USB, what prompted this whole USB diatribe that I did was that we got into this situation where we got in a really nice drive from SanDisk, and it's called their Extreme Pro. So they have Extreme Pro, and then they have the Extreme drives. The Extreme Pro could do 20 gigabits per second utilizing the USB 3.2 2x2 standard to get to 20 gigabits per second. I have yet to find a computer that has that standard supported. So here's the confusing part. You can get a USB 4 drive that does 20 gigabits per second, but that is not using the USB 20 gigabits per second. It's using the Thunderbolt one, right? So within the USB standard, if you have a USB 4 compliant computer, it needs to support the Thunderbolt 20 gigabit spec, but not the USB 20 gigabit spec. So it doesn't have to do 2x2, but it does have to do the Thunderbolt USB 4 20 gigabits. If that's not confusing, I don't know what is. And I was really nervous about that video that I made because I wasn't sure if I was even getting it right. But the good news is everyone said I did, so, or at least I got close to right on it. Bob O wants to know, can you tell or point to me with video instructions that can simplify and accurately help me to install a new internal SSD on my current system? Yeah, so I don't do, I haven't done one of those videos, but I think what you need to do is you probably are going to have to buy if you don't have 2 drive slots in your computer for those SSDs, and I don't know what kind of SSD you have now, but if you have one of those NVMe SSDs or an mSATA, you're going to need some way to clone one drive to the other. Otherwise, you're going to have to basically install the whole system from scratch. So that's the question. Mark Dell wants to know, is this the last stream of the year? I don't think so. I'm going to probably have another one. The reason is, I'm going to do another one, is because Parallels just released some stuff to allow you to boot up Windows ARM on the M1 Mac, and I was going to do a stream setting that up, so we'll probably do that before the end of the week. So today is Tuesday. It feels like Wednesday, but it's only Tuesday. So we will probably do something with that soon. Agent 091 says, the only thing I know with 2x2 is the Moto M2 MIDI. Yeah, I couldn't find anything. In fact, when I tested that drive, I had to go buy an expansion card for my desktop computer upstairs just to see if it could do the full 20 gigabits. It was so confusing. And so, like, the real kicker here is that so they have the Extreme Pro and the Extreme. For most consumers, because nobody's got this 2x2 on their computer, the Extreme, the less expensive drive, performs roughly the same as the Pro does because people just don't have a way to make use of that speed. And what was killing me was like, why didn't they just do the USB 4 Thunderbolt spec? Because that drive would have sold like hotcakes at that price even if it was doing 20 gigabits and not 40. So it's just crazy. Equally wrong here says, this is the very reason I stopped keeping up with technology. It changes too often. Yeah, the USB thing has gotten incredibly confusing. And I think they came at it from the right, initially, they came at it from the right direction, which was they wanted to simplify things by having a single connector that can do power, video, and data. And on the surface, that's a great idea. And what's nice about USB-C is that with an adapter, it'll work with any old USB device in addition to all the new USB-C stuff. But the problem that has happened is that there are so many standards hanging off of this. So if you look at it like a parent and child relationship, there are so many child standards connected to the parent that it's just impossible for a manufacturer to cover or support everything. So you get this convoluted mess. And I think it wasn't helped by Intel, and I don't fault anybody here. I think they were all trying to do the right thing for consumers. But I think between Intel and Apple and everybody else deciding that Thunderbolt should have the same connector as USB really confused things for consumers. And like I said, it took 5 years to get to the point where we can now buy universal equipment. But yeah, there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. As Agent 091 says, it's partially Intel's fault and partially the USB consortium's fault. So there's a lot of fault to be had. All right, so that was a fun experiment, wasn't it? To see how that works. So I think what I might do is write to OWC tonight and just get some clarification on that, just to set the expectation. Because these drives are kind of maxing out at 20 gigabits each. And so my assumption was that because we've got 40, as a shared bus here, that we should have gotten a little bit more. But it could just be the drop. Who knows? So we'll have to figure out how to explain that. All right, so let me kill this RAID, and let's go hook up my Windows computer and see if it supports it. My gut is that it won't, because my computer is my Windows computer is Thunderbolt 3 and not Thunderbolt 4. So let's see how that what happens there. But but I will say though, for all the confusion about this Thunderbolt stuff, I am very happy with this because it's solving a problem for me. And what's nice is that like I'm using this upstairs in the kitchen where I plop down in the evenings because I like to be around the family when I'm wrapping up the day. And so I do a lot of uploads from my new MacBook Air on the kitchen counter. And so I've got, like I said, I've got my Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter in here because I have that 2 gig upload speed now. So I use that here. And then I've got my 2 edit drives plugged into the other 2 ports. And it's only using 1 port on the computer, and it's giving me power. It's a great thing. And it works great because the drives work. Everything works at the speed that I'm expecting from the devices. So it's been a really nice thing. And I was actually surprised that I got power delivery as part of the deal with this because I was just expecting to get Thunderbolt ports, but it's got more than enough power for the M1 Mac. So that's been really good. All right, let me just. I've been getting these robocalls for these vehicle warranty things. It's been driving me crazy. They don't stop, and they keep changing the numbers. So every time I block one of the numbers, another one comes up. And then I was setting my iPhone to just block calls that were not in my address book, and that worked fine. But I've got a couple people that call me. So I appear on this local radio station every 2 or 3 weeks or so. And so they call me, and then they always call from one of those no caller ID numbers. So I forget to turn that off for when they call me. So I just can't win. So I leave it off all the time, and I get these calls constantly from these robocalls about my vehicle warranty. All right, so now I've got my Windows machine out here. And don't be scared. The screen might flicker when it boots up because there's some crazy NVIDIA driver issue. See this? It's been doing this now. There's nothing physically wrong with it. It is all a driver issue. And then once I log into it and reboot, it's fine on the reboot. So it's just this crazy thing that it's been doing. And I'm waiting for NVIDIA to fix the driver. Maybe it's ready now. Mark Dell gets several of those calls per day. It's madness. And you can't stop them. They're coming in from overseas, you know? And do people buy these warranties? They must be getting, they must be working if they're making so many calls, right? It's just like a constant thing. One man show says they're from an American company. So how do I get off the list? I just want them to stop calling me. I mean, it is at least 2 or 3 times a day. And I could do that, that no-mo robo thing or whatever, but I just feel like, why do we have to pay for a service to not get called, right? So I might turn that block all thing back on, but we'll have to see what happens. Amazon customer says, where is the Amazon link? So unfortunately, this hub is not yet available on Amazon. It will be at some point, but it's not on Amazon at the moment. But it is, you can buy one. They're coming out in drips and drabs. So I ordered mine back in October or November, and it showed up about a week ago. And I've been using it ever since. It's been great. So what I want to do here is, let me check my Lenovo drivers, because I need to see if I have the most recent Thunderbolt version on here. I'm pretty sure I updated the Thunderbolt driver the other day. But we'll check for updates anyhow and see what we get here. So, and what's funny, because Drew's getting actual people on the phone, I get these, this recording that says, you know, whatchamacallit, they just say, call this number and yada, yada. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I think I have the link to this on the description. If it's not there, I'll put it in there. Let me just take a look here. Well, I can't. Can I edit the description while it's going? I think I can. Yeah, give me 1 second. I will get that link up for you. And we're up to date on all of our drivers, so I think we're good. Yeah, so like I said, I don't expect this to work, but let me load up the Thunderbolt control center here, and we'll see if it recognizes this. Now again, this is a Thunderbolt 3 Windows PC, and we're plugging in this Thunderbolt 4 dock. But it looks like it found it. So it says, let's always connect. Yeah, it looks like it worked. All right, so that's plugged in. So why don't we plug in a drive here and see if it detects the drive. So we'll take this first one out and see if it works. So it did detect the hub. Let me tilt the camera up so you can see it. Oops. And I gotta also, give me 1 second here, folks. I'm going to just try to get that thing for you all. Bear with me for 1 second here. All right, so it looks as though the hub was detected. Let me go back to the Thunderbolt controls panel here. So it did detect the hub, but it's not detecting the drive that I just connected. Let me just unplug it and plug it back in here and see if we get anything else. Okay, Thunderbolt functionality might be limited. Make sure the Thunderbolt device you connected is supported by your PC. All right, so this could be what you get when you try to use it on a Thunderbolt 3 Windows computer. So it detects the hub, but nothing that you connect to it. All right, so that didn't work. So why don't we try plugging in something to the USB port on here and see if that works. Because that might come through as a USB device. Yeah, so the USB port here worked. Now let's try this, because this might be kind of neat. Because remember, this drive this one's compatible with Thunderbolt and with USB. So if we plug this one in, let's see what happens. And whether or not it shows up as a USB drive. Yeah, this one's not showing up at all. All right, so let me go into the computer management here. And let's see what we get. Yes, I don't expect this to work with this one here. Because of that Thunderbolt 3 versus 4 thing. All right, so now disk management. Oh, actually, it is showing up. So disk 2, which is this one. Now the question is, what does it see it as? Because all right, so let's go into the device manager and see if it's coming under USB. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is detected as USB, because if I plug in now, so let's unplug this, and we plug in a real Thunderbolt drive now, it's just going to tell us that the functionality is limited. Yeah. Yeah, so that doesn't show up as a, yeah, so that doesn't show up at all. So I've got 2 drives on here, but they're both internal. All right, so let's try the Samsung drive just for the heck of it and see what happens. That is so cool. So it's showing up like the USB functionality is working. So the USB controller in here is working over the Thunderbolt. But if you plug a Thunderbolt device in, it doesn't work on Thunderbolt 3. If we had a Thunderbolt 4 PC, that would work. So that's going to make my video a lot shorter, I think. All right, so let me go in and show you all where you can find this thing. Give me 1 second here to pop into my URL thing so I can get you the URL to this. I should know exactly where I can get it from. All right, give me 1 second here, and I will get you all a link to that, and we'll figure that out. So, yes, this is interesting. This was a good Good little experiment. Yes, I was going to shoot this today, but I figured, you know what? Let me get stuff set up so I can play around with it. And let me go to my community tab here. But I've been very, like I said, I've been very happy with it, because if you've got something that's compatible with it, I think you're going to really get some use out of it. It's what I wanted. And what's nice about it is that, hang on one second, oops. Almost there. What's nice about it is that it's $150. So it's less than what you'd pay for a typical Thunderbolt dock, a lot less. And it delivers the functionality that I was looking for, because I'd rather have 3 Thunderbolt ports and plug other stuff into it than have one big dock, right? And OWC has a Thunderbolt dock with 10 gig Ethernet, but it has a fan that has to run all the time. It's too noisy. So I have, like, upstairs in the kitchen, I've got my Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter plugged in. It's fanless. It's huge, but it's fanless. And I've got the 2 drives plugged in. It works great. And I've got only 1 port occupied, so I have a second port that I can still have access to. I should have put this link in initially. So if you refresh the YouTube feed now, you will see the link in the description for YouTube. Sorry for the confusion, everybody. So there it is. And yeah, so I've got a couple things that I'm going to be testing in the full review. I'll pull up what I plan on doing, and then you all can tell me if that is what you think would work. So let me just log into my other account here. It gets dark so early. I'm like, by 7 o'clock, I feel like it's like 10. So what I'm looking to do here is we're going to demo hooking up 2 4K displays. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Or maybe I'll do it now. I could set it up over in the nook over there. We're going to do 2 4K displays, so just to show that it works. So what it supports is it does 2 4K displays or a single 5, 6, or 8K. And then, of course, you still have the ports available. Oh, you know what we need to try? We need to try the eGPU. So why don't we hook that up real quick? So yes, we did the RAID 0 test, the USB 3.2 drive slot we need to do, eGPU on the MacBook Pro, and Windows support on the Thunderbolt 3. So let's get the eGPU out. We'll shut the Windows machine down here. So at least we got that tested. And of course it is ready to update again. So we'll let that update, and I will go get the eGPU, the big monster that it is. So move this one onto the floor here and let it update. Let me just get it onto something so it doesn't overheat. Put it on this box here. Okay, so put that right there. And let me go grab my eGPU. And what we want to look for here, oh boy, is whether or not the Mac will recognize it. Now, the MacBook Air and Pro with the M1 do not support eGPU, but the MacBook Pro that I've got, the 15-inch, does. So in case you've never seen one of these things before, what this is essentially a PCI Express slot and a power supply, and this huge thing has a single tiny little Thunderbolt connector on the back that it uses to connect to stuff. So we need to get now, let me move my MacBook out of here so I don't step on it. So we need to get the 15-inch MacBook back on the desk. And what we're going to test here is whether or not the eGPU will be detected through the hub. And what we'll do is, to validate this, is I've got this video output that we will connect into it here, and that will go out to our video system here. All right, so now I've got to find another power cord. One thing we have no shortage of here are power cords. The question is, which one is plugged in? All right, so let me clear out some room here. So this one, this is free. Okay, so we'll plug it into that. Okay, so we'll plug this in. So what we're trying to figure out here now is, will the MacBook Pro detect the presence of the eGPU when it's connected to the dock? That is the question. Now, typically, you'd want to have the eGPU on its own Thunderbolt lane, right, just for the sake of it. But if you were constrained by a lack of ports, especially on like a Windows PC, this might be a good solution. All right, so now we got the hub connected, and we are getting power. And what I'm going to do now, let's move this over here on top of this thing. And I'm going to flick this sucker on here, I think. Yeah, that's off, that's on. Okay, so we'll plug this in here. Okay, well, it detected something. All right, something happened. Let's see. Yeah, it's working. Okay. Here, so I will show you that it detected my eGPU through the hub. All right, so that's working so far. So let's plug in one of these hard drives, and let's see if it detects that. Okay, so now we've got the drive attached, and by the way, if you're curious, this is what I do all day. This is work. Trying to get all this stuff to work. Now, this drive is not formatted, so let's go to the disk utility. I just want to make sure that we can actually use the eGPU off one leg of this thing and have a drive connected also. So I'm going to go to the disk utility and see if this drive, yeah, it's uninitialized. So perfect, so let's erase it. And I'll show you my screen here. And we'll do the APFS. Yeah. So we got a single Thunderbolt connection, and we have an eGPU and a hard drive connected. Now granted, they're sharing the bandwidth here. And I don't know, oh, that's a good question. Somebody was wondering, can we do display out from the dock with the GPU connected? And I'm pretty sure we can. So why don't we grab a monitor and a table and hook all that stuff up. So let's see. This is not the best visual, but I got a table. So we'll put that right here. And then we'll put a monitor up on the table. Put this, that's not a good one. Let's put this one up there. Actually, this is not the right one. Let's do this one. We'll go 4K for the heck of it. So here is a, you can't see it, can you? But that's okay. We'll work around this problem. Let's see, where does this power cord go to? This one goes to nowhere, so we can unplug that. And I need another power adapter. I feel like a mad scientist down here. Okay, so we got another power adapter. I got room on my plug mold here, so I'm going to plug into this one. I got to clean up this place. It's been a real disaster in this room. Okay, so now we're going to run display output from the hub, which is not going to go through. See, I don't know where it's going to output the display through. We're going to have to we'll have to figure that out. So we're going to connect up this connector. This is a USB-C to HDMI connector. And that's going to be the tricky thing with this review, because like, where do you stop on on the testing, right? So let's plug that in. Plug it in here. Okay, so now let's see what we get. Yeah, that is working. Okay, so now, oh, this is interesting. So when I connected the display, the drive got disconnected but reconnected it. So now this is the display. So let me see how many displays we've got here. I'm going to pull up my Mac display thing. And let's go to arrangement. So we are showing. So where's this? What do we got going on here? Okay, so this one is on the GPU, the one that you see here. And then this one is the 4K display coming out of that dongle. And then this is the GPU, that's the 4K display, and this is the Mac's display. So we have 3 displays detected. Now what I don't have is an idea as to like where's the video coming from, right? Because we've got this GPU generating video, we've got the internal GPU. Let me go back to my system thing and see if it can tell me that. And we'll try to figure it out. All right. But yes, the display over there is working. You can't really see it. I have a very small workspace. That is a big problem for me. But it does, I can tell you there's something on that display. Here, I'll move the image around here a little bit so you can see it there. It's got something on it. All right, so now let's go over to displays. Give me 1 second here. I'm just trying to figure all this out. Displays, okay. Oh, look at this. It shows you, does it show us what? Yes. Oh, this is really cool. All right, check this out. So we're going to move this over to, so I can see this if I bring it over to here. So hang on, let's pull this up. I should record some B-roll on this. All right, and here we go. Okay, so let me go full screen with this. You can see how it's routing everything. So Intel graphics right now, nothing, all right? The internal Radeon, so here, let me zoom this in for you. The internal Radeon right now is powering the Retina display on the laptop. Right, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And the monitor. See that? That 4K? I'm going to record this. Give me a second. Because this is going to be fun for the video. And I'm going to zoom this camera out so we can get a better picture of everything here. What a mess. Don't even look at that. I need a person to come in here and clean me up. But I don't have very good ventilation here, so it's just not gonna work. Okay, this will be good enough for for demonstration purposes. Okay, so let me do, because as many of these crazy ideas as we can come up with, I think we'll have some benefit from this. All right, so this is going to be the Thunderbolt Hub B-roll. All right. So let's do that. Okay, so now we're going to record this, and we got the eGPU, we've got the dock here, and then connected to the dock is a USB to HDMI dongle. And if we switch over, as you can see, we've got the Radeon internal driving that 4K display and the Mac display. And then we have the eGPU outputting to the video capture hardware. And this is at 720p right now, just because this always auto detects at 720p, and I have to jack it up. But still, it's working. That's cool. Perfect. That's neat. Okay. So that works. Doris is asking, here's a good question. What Mac do we have here on the desk? So this is an Intel Mac. So here's the thing. The M1 Apple Silicon Macs don't work with eGPUs. So what I have here on the desk is, this is the 2016, the late 2016 MacBook Pro. And this was the first one that has the Thunderbolt 3 on board. And then I have an AMD GPU, because Apple kind of supports NVIDIA now, but they prefer the AMDs. So that's what's connected here. And then we've got the other thing over there. So now what I want to try out now is I want to disconnect the display to see what happens to that drive. So let me just clear out the notification here. Because when I hooked it up the first time, it disconnected the drive. So let's pull it out. And let's see if we get the error this time. So now the 4K display is disconnected. And the Samsung drive is still attached, I think. Yes. So we didn't get a warning about it detaching. So let's plug it back in and see what happens now. All right, so that reattaches. And did we get the warning this time? Nope, drive stayed attached. So it was weird, it disconnected, right? It shouldn't have done that before, but this time it worked. So I'm going to update my notes on this real quick, just so we add that to the repertoire, because we have the B-roll now. So yeah, it's been good. I mean, like I said, I've been using this thing for the last week or so. I got it like on Christmas Eve. And it's so weird to get excited about getting this for Christmas for myself. But I was super excited for it because it has been a really useful, like I said, for what I needed it for, it's perfect. And like I'm not noticing any performance issues. It's been really cool. All right, cancel that. Give me 1 second here. I just got to go and log into one of my other accounts here. Go back to my phone here. Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm using my Surface Laptop Go on the desk here with me, and I just need to pull up my Google Doc on here real quick. All right, so demo, and then we're going to demo drive, eGPU, and USB-C to HDMI connector. And we have that on B-roll. Perfect. All right, good stuff. Yeah, so this is a fun little project. Raffiquent wants to know, is the monitor running at 60 FPS? I can find out for you. So let me go back and hit my, let me gather these windows here. I am pretty sure it is. Yeah, it's definitely running at 60. But let me double check that. I think I can do that in the system information again. Let's take a look. Yeah, it'll tell me on the system preferences what it's running at. I just got to figure out which display it's showing up on. Oh, it's over here. Hang on. So the question was, is it running at 60 hertz? And the answer to that question is, where's my mouse pointer? Here it is. So if we go over to the built-in, that's not showing us anything, right? Yep, 60 hertz. So there you go. So Mark Dell says yeah, all right, speed test. Let's try that real quick. So remember, yes, we got 4K going out that thing now. So why don't we pull up the speed test again? I got like things all over the place here. And we formatted that Samsung drive already. So I will do that real quick here, or connect to that drive. And I will move this window over to, oh, where'd it go? It's right here. Oh, I gotta full screen this thing. Hang on a second. Okay, so let me pull this up here. Now, where did my window go? Let me minimize this. Here it is. Okay. All right, so we're going to run the speed test with the Samsung drive connected. Remember, this one does like 2.5 gigabytes on the reads, not on the writes. All right, so this is with the video output and the eGPU connected, and we're not seeing any reduction in speed. How about that? It is running at the same speed. Now, granted, we're not doing anything to the GPU at the moment, so why don't we run a benchmark of some kind. Let me get this display also addressed so we can run this at 1080p off the eGPU. All right, so the encoder, we're going to scale that at 1080p. Okay, so now we're at 1080p on the encoder. Does that look okay to all of you? I think it looks okay. And we're running at 60 hertz. Okay, 1080p 60. I'm only streaming out at 30, but that's okay. All right, so now what I could do is I have Geekbench, so we could run a benchmark and then run the disk speed test at the same time. So let's go over to, let me zoom this in. I can't, I'm going blind, so I'm so old. Compute. Okay, so we can run it on, oh, look at that. We can select what GPU we want to run it on. All right, so we're going to run this on the eGPU. Let me go find that disk speed test again. I got displays all over the place here. So we'll pull up the Blackmagic speed test. We want to make sure that we're really working the Thunderbolt connection here, right? So we're going to keep that up, and we're going to run the compute benchmark, and then we're going to start the drive test here. It looks like it's a little more like staggered. See that? Like it almost feels like it's sharing the connection. So you know what we'll do is we'll let it run here with both with the drive going and the benchmark running, and then we'll see what the benchmark looks like when we don't have the drive running. Yeah, I don't. You know, Mark Dell's asking some good questions about the bandwidth that it uses. I don't know. That's the one question I have. Is I don't know like what the display bandwidth uses. This is all new to me. I think there's a dedicated wire for the display, so I'm not sure. I mean, there's definitely something weird with the okay. Yeah, you see how the test, like how the drive is not as buffery, right? We were getting the same bandwidth, but there was like, is it jitter? Is that the right word? Okay, all right, so that's done. So remember this. Let's write down, let me write down what I got there for a second. So I'm just going to mark that down as a note. So we got 29, oops, hang on a second here. So 29,257. All right, that was with the disk speed test running. So now let's run that same test without the drive running and see what we get. 29,257 with drive. Now, granted, this GPU is not the fastest one out there. This is just the one that I bought to test eGPUs with the Mac. And it's weird, you know, you buy this stuff and you don't use it for a while, and then all of a sudden all this stuff comes out and you've got a lot of things to do with it. All right, so let's run it again. Let's make sure it's on the right one, the RX 580, okay? And let's run the compute benchmark again. Again, 29,257 was the score we got the first time. And Mark says, don't, yeah, I just shot the review of the thing today. Andre N has a question here. On this new MacBook Pro M1, I have a dot under Finder icon all the time. Is that normal? Oh, yeah, you always have a dot under the Finder icon. That just means that it's loaded, like it's actually running, and it's always there. Even on the old Macs, it's always there. It just might be more visible now. Let me go back to that screen here. All right, let's see what we get. And we'll just record some B-roll here as that's wrapping up. So again, the drive test is not running. Aha! So we got a better score, didn't we? 34,287. So there is some sharing of bandwidth. So now, okay, so remember 34,287. So what do we do now? Well, now let's disconnect that 4K display we hooked up. And let's see what we get with just one display attached, right? So let's run it again. So 34,287. Oh, what happened? Let me go back in. I must have hit my hotspot there. Okay, so let's close this out. And let's go back to Geekbench. It looks like I'm mirroring displays now, so I want to not do that. Hang on, let's just go up to my thing here. Screen mirroring. Display preferences. Okay. I'm not sure if this makes a difference, but I want to keep the test configured the same way. All right, so now we have no drive running, and it's connected but not running. And we're going to run the Geekbench, wherever it went to, on the RX 580. Let's get it onto its screen here. And let's run it now without the 4K display connected. And let's see what we get. And Aaron Johnson asks, sorry for asking a question, it's unrelated. What cell phones, whether it be phones or iPhones or Android phones, could double as a video camera? I think they all can. They have some apps that can do that. On the iPhone, I use an app from NewTek called NDI Camera, which allows me to basically put the iPhone's camera out on the network, and I can bring it right into my vMix software here, and that works really well. Okay, 35. So, I mean, you could argue that this is the margin of error, right? 35,343 without drive or video out. That's, I mean, that's super close. Well, I guess it's 1,000 difference, right? So there you go. That's it. Recipe Bob is in line at Arby's. You want to bring me something? I'm getting hungry, actually. It's almost dinner time. How long have I been streaming for? I've been streaming for 1 hour and 10 minutes. My wife is over at my mother-in-law's house with the kids. So I was like, ooh, I got time. I can do a stream. Got my video done for the day. Got all this stuff tested. Got me some great questions that I could add to the video. So this was a good afternoon for sure. So, cool. All right. Well, I think I have accomplished most of what I set out to do today. And we're not going to upload a video tonight because the wrap-up is doing pretty well. So I'm going to let that one sit for another day and acquire some views. But I'm going to shoot this tomorrow, and then we'll have some other stuff going on a little later in the week. Good stuff. All right. Yeah, so this was fun. My man shows, what's up with these questions? Almost the same wording. They could have copy and pasted. And I get it, because like if we have a certain topic, people don't want to ask questions that aren't related, but I'm always happy to help with questions, so I'm happy to do that. Thomas Anfang wants to know, how would you run Ethernet cables in a rental home? Well, if you can't cut holes in the wall, I guess the only way you could do it would be under carpets. You could do, they have those things like those cable runners that stick on the wall versus nail in. You could do that. If you got coax cable in the walls, you can get mocha. That's probably the best option, is to go with mocha. Mark Dell says not. Oh yeah, I did see your message about parallels. Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna. There is a Windows Insider thing that I got to sign up for. There was an article on 9to5 Mac that's got the whole scoop out there for me. So I'm gonna check that out ahead of that stream. And I figured we would start from when I have everything downloaded and just kind of figure out the whole process. So good stuff. All right. Well, I'm glad you all enjoyed the stream. This was fun. Again, this was just one of my work sessions where I was just checking stuff out. And yeah, it seemed to be, seems to work pretty good. So we confirmed a couple of things. One is that you can use eGPUs with it. It will share the bandwidth. There'll be a little bit of a performance hit if you're really whacking away at the, on the drive at the same time, but that worked. We need to figure out, why we weren't getting the aggregate bandwidth of both of those drives when we had them as RAID 0, and I may just email the guy at OWC tonight about that. Doesn't work with Thunderbolt 3 PCs, although the USB ports do work, but this would be a really expensive USB hub. So, I mean, not really, it's $150, a lot more than what you'd pay for a USB hub. So there you go. Oh, here's a great question, unrelated, but a gripe that I have that Shane apparently has the same problem. If I tried Dolby Vision video recorded on an iPhone 12 to my OLED, I have, and all I get is the regular HDR mode to pop up. And to do that, I have to have my Apple TV connected to the TV, browsing through my photo library. I have not gotten a Dolby Vision thing popping up on there. I don't know if anybody else has had that, but at the moment, no. Just the HDR. And it doesn't look that good. It looks much better on the phone screen than it does on my OLED TV. And everything looks great on my OLED TV, so that is definitely something that has been bugging me. Oh, you know what I forgot to queue up here? Where is my image thing? Hang on one second, folks. Is this the one I wanted to? Nope, not that one. Yeah, because I had set up a image for when the stream ends so that we don't just end abruptly. And I got to find what I did with that image. So let me get my Mac out here and set that up real quick. Napit wants to know, what docking station would I recommend? So I've got a very simple recommendation for that. And that is, so I like this one a lot. The only thing, this is the pluggable one. 96 watts, I think that's enough for your MacBook 16. And you have a choice. I'll give you the overhead view of it here. I have it just not in front of me. Is it here? No, it's on the other side of the room. But you have both Thunderbolt, DisplayPort, and HDMI. It's your choice. The only downside to this is that it doesn't have pass-through. So you can't pass through another Thunderbolt device to it. But this one has been, I think, is probably the best one to get because it does everything. And if you click over on my Amazon link, I reviewed it recently, so you can check it out. But that one is definitely the one that I like right now because it really works quite well. All right, bear with me, folks. I just got to find my image that I made the other day. So let's go into, I can't remember where I put it. Did I put it in graphics? Nope. Then I must have put it on my iCloud. So I can find it in my Keynote thing here. I did save it. Ah, here it is, end of stream. Perfect. We're just going to pull this up real quick. You know what happened? The last time I did this, it was on the Mac itself. So I'm just going to export this to my video system here so that we always have it. So bear with me for 1 second here. Matjaz, thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed the stream. Let's make sure I didn't miss any super chats here. We're good on that. Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. These are always fun to do. And like I said, I just kind of do these when I'm working on stuff. And, you know, we've been doing this thing with Amazon, which has been awesome. Like, it's such a good fit for what I do. And so people have gotten a lot out of these things. So it's been good. All right, hang on a second here. And let me just connect to my NAS box, and we're going to drop in this image once I connect to it. There we go. All right. Yeah, check it out, Nap. I think this one will work well for what you're looking for, because it's got the right amount of power. It's got the display flexibility. It's good stuff. But I will say that I really like this hub because you can choose what devices you want, right? So if you want to plug a USB hub in, plug it into the front, get it cheap. You know what I mean? I bet you could build your own little docking station with one of these for less than what the other one might cost. For whatever reason, it is not letting me connect to my NAS here, which is driving me crazy. All right, hang on a second. Let's just export this. Nothing's easy. All right, so now I've got an end of stream document, I believe. I do. And let's connect to my IO safe. There we go. All right, so drop that into my current projects folder. And we'll drop this over there. Okay, so now I'm going to add an image that I will find and be able to get to every time on my current projects folder. Okay, so we're there, and I'll just do this end of stream. And okay, there we go. So that is good. And Mark Dell is already installing Windows 10 ARM on his MacBook. Yeah, this is going to be a fun project. I guess it's still a little rough around the edges, so we'll have to see what happens there. Shane O'Sullivan, have I noticed a lot of Android or Windows PC people switching to M1 MacBooks because of the performance? I think it's going to attract a lot of people. Absolutely. And it's battery and its performance in one package, right? The big question is whether or not that's going to make a difference over the long haul. So, you know, is it going to make a dent? This is what I was saying on the stream on the video last night, is if the M1 MacBook can eat into market share on the Windows side, then you'll see Microsoft and Dell and Lenovo and HP, you'll see them react, right? If it doesn't make a dent, then they're not going to bother, because like it's not hurting their business to have a faster processor, believe it or not, or a more efficient processor, I should say. The problem with the ARM Windows stuff right now is that you get the battery life, but the performance is terrible for the price. So the MacBook Air performs better than you would expect it to for what it has and its price. But the ARM-based Windows machines, for as expensive as they are, perform like a $200 computer sometimes. So it's pretty rough. Okay. So we'll have to see what happens there. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And this will conclude our broadcast day, but I will be back again. I'm going to shoot this video tomorrow. If I've got time, maybe we'll do the stream on Windows on the MacBook. But we'll see what tomorrow's looking like. And it's only Tuesday, so we have Thursday and Friday and Wednesday. Well, just hit your notification bell. And if you haven't already, follow me on Amazon too, because I'm trying to build up my following over there. So click the Amazon link, and you can find me. All right. See you all later. Bye-bye.